What's he that wishes so? My cousin Westmoreland? No, my fair cousin. If we are marked to die, we are enough to do our country loss. And if to live, the fewer men, the greater share of honor.
Harry the King, Bedford and Exeter, Warwick and Talbot, Salisbury and Gloucester, feel the flowing cups, which we remember it. This story show the good man teach his son, there's been crispy and shown and old life from this day to the ending of the world. But for years shall we remember it. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. Be never so vile, this day shall gentle his condition. I'm gentleman in England.
Hello, this is G.P. Haggart, theologian and exorcist, here on the Exorcist podcast. Thank you for listening, and I apologize for the slowdown in the airing of the Exorcist podcast. There's just been a lot of projects that have been occurring, and so we're just working on a lot of projects. Hopefully that will come out in 2025 or even sooner. Today's date is October 2nd. And I know that when whoever becomes president of the United States, and you're listening to this after the election, whichever way it comes out, I know it's going to be a little different when you're listening to this, but there's something that just really irritates me that I need to say. I need to talk about. They always say don't mix religion and politics, but the reality is they go hand in hand. It's been like that. I mean, if you read your Bible, you're going to see that both kingdoms of Israel did mix religion and politics. The kings of Israel that were worshiping gods, and mainly God, the one true God. And Islam today is a combination of religion and politics. A good example is Iran. The Ayatollah tells the president what to do. The supreme leader is the Ayatollah. Islam is very much involved in politics when you're, a lot of you are probably not old enough to remember, but I remember during the Gulf War, the first one, that when our troops went over to our ally in Kuwait, the Kuwaitis were even blunt in telling the Americans, look, you can't do this, and you can't wear religious objects in Christianity, you can't do this, and so forth. And they were just really strict on what they can bring in, because they knew that they were bringing in Christians to help save their country, to stop the invasion. Well, it was the Saudis, I'm sorry. They were going to go in and save Kuwait. There's a lot of countries around the world that mix politics and religion. The Western world doesn't do that. Most of Europe, United States, Canada, Australia, and so forth don't mix politics and religion. That's always kept separate. Some countries, I could be wrong. A good example is the kingdom, the United Kingdom. You look at the history of the United Kingdom, both in Scotland and in England, they mix politics and religion. The Jezebel spirit, of course, is both. It's a political and a religious spirit, and demons just don't care. They're not going to follow the, we don't want to get our feelings hurt, so we're not going to allow demons to be both political and spiritual. They don't care. They're going to use politics as much as possible through the politicians to get at us and destroy us. So yes, politics and religion can mix. It's just in the Western world we try to divide it, which I don't really understand that. I think it was Calvin Coolidge who said that when asked about the comparing of the leadership between the UK and the United States, and then talking about the UK monarchy, Coolidge said, well, the King of the United States, the King of America, is Jesus Christ. The first Chief Justice of the United States, John Jay, he said, this Christian nation, end quote. And so a lot of the early fathers of the United States believed that this country was Christian. And the only way we have separation between church and state in this country was a source of letters that Thomas Jefferson wrote. When I can't remember which church it was a Protestant church, because they were concerned about the Church of England coming in and trying to take over things. Today, there is that separation within the Church of England. The Church of England is stayed there in the UK, and we have the Episcopal Church today. There are those remnants of the Church of England. So the separation between church and state isn't law. It's not law. It's just an interpretation that was made by Thomas Jefferson to, I believe it was the Baptists at the time, when they had concerns about the Church of England. And he basically told them, look, we're going to have a separation between church and state, and he was referring to the separation between us and the Church of England. Other religions, other Christian denominations are free to practice. And over time, politics has taken that as there's a separation between church and state, when there really isn't. So this is the United States is a Christian nation. It's just politics, mainly on the left, has removed all aspects of God in this country. So in talking about politics, I want to clear the fog a little bit. So we're going to get our flaming truth of a flamethrower out, and we're going to cut through this fog of what is basically going on. And this is more of a message to my liberal friends out there. Now, you conservatives, I'm conservative myself, bash liberals quite a bit when you're really bashing the wrong group. Now, liberals are patriotic. They're gun owners. They love the Second Amendment. They love free speech, and so forth. They're conservatives and liberals are pretty close to center. That's the way it should be on both political parties. But you liberals, my friends, you're being deceived. And we conservatives are just trying to move the country, move America back to center. That's all we're trying to do. Whereas liberals are kind of caught in between center and the leftists. My mother and I, she'll come over occasionally, and we just get into these big political debates because she believes that she's a moderate, she's independent and center and everything. But of course, I can tell that her views are liberal, which are fine. Again, liberals are patriots of America. And actually, if you are on the outside and you're a foreigner looking at the country, looking at America, you're going to view both liberal and conservative ideas in America as liberal. And to a lot of foreigners' eyes, conservatives are liberal. It's just we're a free country. So there's a big difference between liberals and leftists. Liberals are not leftists, and leftists are not liberals. Leftists are these people in America who are trying to introduce gay marriage, gay relationships, trying to tell the other side, oh, you're being homophobic. They're trying to introduce a lot of things that are moving the country away. Now, Antifa is which this astounds me because Antifa is a leftist group trying to embrace communist views. And I don't think that they're realizing that they are embracing communist views. Communism hasn't worked. And if you're an Antifa-ite and you are listening to this, you're getting angry, is because you're hearing the truth. They call themselves anti-fascists, which they don't realize that what they're doing is fascist ideas. So they're really a dumb group. They don't really realize what they're doing or what they're fighting for. I'm Gen X, and I grew up with the Soviet Union's threats of nuclear war every day. I remember going to school and just worrying about the idea of a nuclear bomb hitting the United States at any moment. Luckily, we had Reagan to stop it. The Soviets were afraid of Reagan. Reagan, he distributed a lot of American power throughout the whole world. Got a lot of countries afraid of America, and that's the way things should be. And Trump has that ability too. He has a lot of ideals of Reagan, and he also has a lot of ideals. He's saying a lot. Well, I'll get to that later. But Reagan was feared around the world for what he did. He had very powerful American leadership. The world looks to American leadership, and we don't have strong leadership in America. Then the rest of the world just goes into chaos, and they're going to fight, bring up any war. They're going to feel like they're going to do what they want to do. The truth of the matter is that when Trump was president, there was no war. The world was at peace, and he was fighting to get peace around the world. And he wanted to pull out of Afghanistan, and he wanted to do it right, not like another Vietnam. And that's what Biden did. When the United States pulled out of Vietnam, it was very similar to how Biden did it in Afghanistan. Just a complete pullout, and the Taliban just rushed right in and regained power. That's the same thing that happened in Vietnam when America pulled out of Vietnam. The communists from the north just rushed in and took over, and there's really no difference. There was a lot of loss of life in Vietnam. A lot of Americans fought basically for nothing. America was actually winning the war.
Within the recesses of the human psyche, there lies an ominous force that inexorably gives rise to the emergence of a serial killer. Order your copy of Serial Killers and Their Demons by G.P. Haggart today and find out what made them do it.
In Vietnam. But what the northern Vietnamese communists did was they knew that the American media would have such a great influence on the opinions of Americans, that they just went in, and when they tried to invade the South, they would try to make it look gruesome. And so that those pictures would get back to the United States on television, and then and people would just be so disgusted with the war that they would put pressure on their government and they would want to pull up. And that's exactly what happened. It got so bad that when American soldiers came back from Vietnam, they were tormented by people. They were called baby killers. They were called all kinds of names. And there were soldiers that when they came back, they took off their uniforms because they didn't want that criticism. They didn't get a proper welcome back to the United States like people from World War II and Korea. And so when a lot of Vietnam veterans just hid out into the woods. They built their houses in rural areas, and I know all this because my father fought in Vietnam. I'm the son of a Vietnam vet, and I heard stories. And even surrounded by my father's friends who were in Vietnam, hearing all the stories and hearing all the trauma that they went through coming back. They went over there, fought for their country, they came back and were just devastated over what America thought of them. And they were treated very different. So luckily, America today, we really respect our soldiers because of what the families go through today. And when they came back from Afghanistan, we gave them a warm welcome, which is really needed. And I have counseled Vietnam veterans, war veterans, and still do today. And there's a lot of trauma that they go through. It's post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's terrible what they go through. There's a lot of anger, especially in Vietnam veterans. And a lot of the same soldiers that had a kind of pullout in Afghanistan, just were, they were going through the same thing that Vietnam veterans went through. So again, we were not losing in Afghanistan. It was just a war that was costing a lot of money, and we were keeping the enemy back. And we had strong leadership, and that is true today. What Trump said in the last debate with Harris is that he did, in fact, have an interpreter, went into the room with the Taliban leader, and basically told the interpreter to tell him, look, if we want conditions withdrawal, and if you don't comply, if you hurt one American hair on their head, I will kill you. And the interpreter was like blown away, like what he said, and he relayed on to what the Taliban to the Taliban leader. And then all Trump did was he had a photo of the Taliban leader's house and handed it to him, and walked out of the room. That is American strength. That's American resolve. And no American was harmed during that whole process. Again, until Biden came along. Now, I'm not criticizing. No, Biden is the American president. He's my president, and I would support him. If a war came and everything. But there's just one thing that you folks need to understand. The problem in America, the problem in the West, and this is going to destroy not just America, but destroy the West, because it's not happening in the rest of the world, especially in our enemies. Iran, the more Christian enemy, Islamic ideology. Islam puts a stop to it. right away. And I wish Christianity would be more bold in that as well, to put a stop to it. It's not happening in Russia. It's not happening in China. But there is these various groups on the left. They're called leftists. They're not associated with liberals, okay? But they're introducing ideology into Western society that is going to cause it to come onto the brink of destruction. And like, for example, like I was an associate a while ago of the American Psychological Association, and I had access to research. And there is a condition that is called gender identity disorder. It's a real illness. But for some reason, when the right talks to the media about how why are we allowing a mental illness to come about and be reality, be legit, and the media just explodes and bashes the right for that. Oh, they said this. It's not a mental illness and anything. Yes, it is, according to the American Psychological Association. And they don't say it themselves, but it's there. And I have personally seen it. Gender identity disorder is a mental condition. So again, why is the media, why is the left allowing a mental illness to come about and to be genuine, and allowing these people to live their life a lie? You're born with a penis, you have X and Y genes, you're not a woman, you're a man. God made you that way. You have X genes, you have a vagina, you have breasts. You have that curvical structure of your skeleton. That's feminine. That you're a woman. You don't live a lie. And in fact, in mixing politics and religion here, demons, as we know in deliverance, are all male. All of them are. And I've even tested that hypothesis in front of witnesses. And I can even have these witnesses come on the podcast and even tell you what they saw. You take a Bible. The Bible, according to Hebrews 4:12, is a two-edged sword, the Word of God. The Bible is the manifestation of that Word. Again, so is Jesus Christ. You take the Bible, you don't actually touch the person, but swipe it in front of their genitalia when the demon is fully manifested, a Jezebel spirit, a feminine, end quote, type of spirit, and watch them go in pain. Watch them suffer. Their spiritual genitalia has been removed, cut off by the Word of God. I usually say that to Jezebel when she manifests. Stand up, stand the body up, take the body, make the motion in front of the genitalia, and they scream in pain. You gave them a spiritual vasectomy. You want to be a woman so bad, you want to be a female so bad, you want to be a she-male, you're a she-male, I'll help you remove their genitalia. And it works. And people have seen this, they're like, wow. They see the power behind the Word of God. So these demons, specifically Jezebel spirits, and Astaroth is behind all this mainly, comes into these people when they're born. Usually there's some sort of generational abuse trauma that occurs. And from the research I've read, most people that have gender identity disorder have had some sort of trauma or abuse in their past. And Jezebel spirits love abuse and trauma. It gives them a legal right to enter into a person. And what Jezebel spirits like to do is they try to merge with the personality. It's impossible. They can't do it. but they try to merge with the personality as much as possible. And these spirits try to live their life out, or try to live what isn't actually a life, but what they try to do is to live some sort of a life through their host. So they want to do things that they like as well. And that, of course, is living as someone of the opposite gender. And so you see a lot of these men who have had a history of abuse and trauma in their life coming forward, and now they're a woman. In the documentary that we're making, Exposing Jezebel, witnesses were astonished as this gentleman's evil spirit, the Jezebel spirit, came forward in the end for its exorcism, and it was acting feminine. And especially the host, when after his exorcism, when we showed him the footage, he was astonished. He's like, "I don't act like that." And of course, in the documentary, you can see it. And we're hoping to have that documentary out really soon, but it looks like it could be coming out in 2025. We had a lot of hiccups, a lot of speed bumps along the way. That's changed the date for its release. So, is the devil involved in politics and religion? Oh yeah, very much so. One of the things that last night was the vice presidential debate between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz. And I sat there and I listened. I watched the whole debate, and I usually check both sides to find out who's lying and who's not. And of course, in every presidential and vice presidential debate, there's some lying. But one thing that really stuck out was Minnesota's state law on abortion. That's a new law. And J.D. Vance just went at Tim Walz, quoting him what the new law says, and Tim Walz just came right out and just defended himself, and he was like, "Look, that's not what the law says." So I took it upon myself to read the law, and lo and behold, it is in there what J.D. Vance says. So Tim Walz lied. According to the National Catholic Register, the doctors in Minnesota, physicians, are not required to, after a child is aborted from the womb at a late pregnancy, they are not required to resuscitate the child. The law states that they are initially allowed to remove the fetus from the presence of the mother right away so that there is no instant bond or the mother changes her mind on keeping the child or not. And then they can allow that fetus that is alive to sit there and die. So Tim Walz did lie last night. Either that or he did not read the law that he signed into law. So yes, that is murder. Even in the womb, it doesn't matter. I mean, a lot of people think, well, if it's in the womb, it's not murder. But yet we have this law in the United States that if you kill a pregnant woman and also the child dies, that's a double homicide. But yet abortionists are allowed to remove a fetus and let it sit there and die. That's murder, folks. That's blatant murder. That's evil. And what even got under my skin also is at the beginning of the debate when Tim Walz quoted scripture. And he was talking about his faith and everything. And later on, he goes in and he lies, breaking the 9th commandment. And he also goes into defending abortion. I think in God's eyes, Tim, if you're listening to this, that's considered evil. you've broken several commandments, and you're gonna have to face a just and holy God on Judgment Day. Personally, I don't. Well, let me get to this first. So, you have these evil, wicked people that call leftists. They're not just the LGBTQ community trying to force upon an ideology that most of us don't want to accept, and but they're Antifa and a lot of other groups that are just having all these various ideologies and coming forward and trying to get things done their way. And so they know that they can't go and go to the right and have it accepted because conservatives are just not going to accept those ideas. And so they stick to the left, where, of course, liberals are more liberal, okay, more accepting, whereas conservatives are not, more nationalistic in a way. And so they stick over to the left, and that's why they're called leftist groups, the left. Liberals are trained since they're a child, even in college. Some liberal colleges and liberal professors trained to hate conservatives. Now, the people who can turn America around are liberals. Now, if you're a liberal and you're listening to this, you need to make a choice. Again, we conservatives are trying to pull this country back to center, at least. But then you have the left, who is trying to pull the country back over to liberal on the liberal spectrum, on the political spectrum. Far left, the very end of the left is communism. That is, what communism is a militaristic socialist idea, where it is full-on government. There's only one party in the government that rules, and they enforce socialistic ideas upon the nation with the military. That's what communism does. And that's been proven throughout history to not work. So, and then you have, when we go right a little bit from the left, you have socialism is still a left idea. And socialism and communism in that type of society, the government owns everything. You, the resident of the country, do not own anything. So if you have, under communism and socialist rule, if you have a house, you live in a house, and you and your family live in a house, you don't own the house. The government does.
Do you believe in angels? From the author who brought you the Mechanics of Demonology series and How to be a Demonologist. Comes a message. Of hope. Miracles. Power. And protection. Mechanics of Angelology is available at all retail bookstores. Get your copy today.
And let's say your part of your roof collapses. You got this big old gaping hole in your roof. You need it fixed. So what do? Most people who want to bring communism in America think, well, just call somebody up and have them come over and fix it. But you can't do that. You don't own the house. And they would even take you to court if you tried to do anything like that, because that's their property, government property. So you have to contact the government and rely on them to have somebody come out and fix the roof. But the thing is, that could take a week, a month, possibly even a year. That same scenario has happened to people in Cuba. And guess what? They waited almost over a year for their house to get fixed because they don't own their house. Under communism and socialist rule, the government can also come in, let's say that some powerful person come in who could benefit the government, benefit the country, has a lot of ideas, they defected in a way, and they need a house to set that person up. Well, let's so-and-so's got a nice house we own, so we're going to kick them out. We're going to set this person up. Well, you just lost your house. Whereas in capitalism, which is considered the economic default system, so if your company collapses, usually your country will default to capitalism. That's what happened to Russia. And that's what's starting to happen in Venezuela. It went from a capitalist society to socialism. People are starting to figure out, well, we don't like this, so we're going to go back to capitalism. That's exactly what's going to happen here in the United States when eventually, the way we're going, we're going to be a full-on socialist country. The Democratic Party is going to be the one-party rule, and Republicans are going to be left in the shadows if they don't start doing something soon, and the church doesn't start evangelizing. And people are going to realize, whoa, I don't own anything. Why does the government own my house, my car, even my children? What? And this, I don't own anything. And the nice thing is Cuba is starting to realize this, and so they gave out to their people a list of ideas, entrepreneurial ideas that they can do to start their own business. And it's still supervised by the government, but a lot of these communist and socialist countries are starting to realize that socialism and communism doesn't work. Capitalism does. Again, capitalism does have its downfalls as well. Things can be made expensive, and there is going to have to be some government regulation, which here in the United States, we have that. We have regulation over capitalist markets so that they work properly and fairly. And that works. But altogether, full-on communism and full-on socialism does not work. And take that from a Gen Xer, because I lived through it. I saw how people lived in other societies growing up, seeing how communism and socialism works and operates. And they're not very good systems. And then if you go over, and this is the truth about fascism, if you move over from socialism a little bit, you have fascism. And that's on the left. It's a leftist idea. Now, I don't understand why the media, why a lot of academic groups are trying to make fascism a right idea. It's not, it never has been a right idea. Growing up, I was always taught, as a Gen Xer, fascism is a leftist idea. Suddenly, now it's a right idea. It makes no sense. Because fascism has socialist ideas mixed with nationalist ideas. It's a leftist idea. It's right next to socialism. It's not a right idea. The complete opposite of what fascism is nationalism. Nationalism is on the right. And it's a full-on patriotic nationalist idea. And that's what Trump and a lot of their groups that follow Trump are. They're nationalists. They're patriotic people. They love America. They love capitalism. They love all those ideas. They hate fascism. Trumpers, they hate fascism. They hate socialism and they hate communism. But they love America, which they will be very accepting of any American. You go and watch a protest. You go and walk down the street. One side has has all these leftists protesting, and then the other side you have all these people on the right there protesting. You go over to the left, there's a lot of hate over it. If you wear a Trump hat, a red hat, they're gonna hate you like crazy here in America. But if you take a leftist and you invite them over to the right, they're going to be very accepting of that person because they're an American. They're patriotic people. They're for nationalism. They're for America first. That's the big difference. So you liberals have a choice. If you want the country to not be destroyed, you need to start getting in bed with conservatives. Start voting for conservative candidates. I know it's hard. I know it's going to be hard for you. You're going to be at the poll going, oh, hands will be shaking. I got to vote for Trump. Oh, man, I want to save this country. And because a lot of the leftists are moving into the Democratic Party. And when you vote for them, you're voting for a leftist who will ultimately want to bring in these leftist ideas for more government control, higher taxes, more acceptance and forced upon the American people of homosexual agendas, more communist ideas, and so forth. And I know you liberals don't want that. You're very patriotic people. So you have to start getting in bed with conservative candidates. There's been a lot of prominent liberal. I can't think of his name right off the top of my head, but there was a prominent Jewish left liberal who quoted saying that the right. He's not afraid of the right, but what scares him the most is the left. So again, you gotta go and vote for conservative candidates in order to get the nation back to center. That's just the facts. I'm not trying to be political here. That's what's going on. And as an exorcist, I see the tactics of demons, and they're using the left as much as possible to their advantage. Trying to put smoke screens up, make things look too good to be true. The right is not your enemy, liberals. The right is trying to help you. So that's pretty much what I wanted to get at when it came to the political debate last night. Personally, I don't vote for Democrats. I did it in the past before I met my wife. My wife set me straight, especially on abortion, because I was accepting of certain things that occurred for abortion, but she was totally against it. And she's like, if you want to marry me, you gotta be like against abortion. So I decided to look into it. I looked into abortion more. I found that the majority of women who have had abortions regret their abortions. And this country was on the path because more people actually started seeing what was actually going on in an abortion and what it entails, and it just disgusted them. And I knew that this country was on a path to overturning Roe versus Wade, and ultimately it did. And so now it's up to each individual state within the union to decide whether they want to have abortion or not. And it's going to go back and forth. Like here in Michigan, right now the legislature and the governor are all Democrats. And so they passed laws to basically preserve Roe versus Wade so that women in Michigan can have an abortion. But the thing is, here in the United States, that if you're a foreigner, if you're outside the United States and you're listening to this podcast, the majority of the major cities, like here in Michigan, Detroit, Grand Rapids, Lansing, Traverse City, and big cities too, like Chicago, New York, Atlanta, Houston, so forth, like that. And most of the major cities in the United States are where the left is. The rural areas of the United States are all conservative. So, and here in the Midwest, it's kind of, like Indiana is a red state. It's right next to Michigan, just below Michigan. Michigan, we're called Reagan Democrats. I don't know why, but now as a person who comes from Michigan, this is the truth. Just so that you're aware, if the media decides to tell you that Michigan is a blue state, we're actually not. We're a purple state. Michigan can swing. You could say we're like bisexual. We think both ways. The majority of Michigan is we love our guns. The mass majority of Michiganders, I like to say Michiganians, we love our guns. We love to hunt. We love our cars. We love our vehicles. Heck, I grew up in Beaverton, Michigan, and the whole town was a bunch of farmers. And I'm not kidding here. Our varsity jackets were brown Carhartts. I'm gonna let you laugh over that. Now I had, because I wanted a varsity jacket, so I had a red jacket with white sleeves, big old B for Beaverton, and that was it was a kind of a mix. I remember that so fondly, going around and seeing people buy these brand new brown Carhartts, and they put their B on. That was the varsity jacket. Was the brown Carhartt, and so we were a hick town. We were a bunch of rebels. The rural areas in central Michigan here is like, because I've been down to the south quite a bit, and I've had friends that came from the south up to where I live, and they're like, wow, there's really no difference. Like, no, there's not. Michigan, way back then, was even one of the states with the largest KKK membership. So I remember seeing quite a bit of the Confederate flag, the battle flag, not the stars and bars. The battle flag is the cross, the St. Andrew's cross, basically. And they would have it on their trucks going down the road. I remember the gun racks in the trucks. I know a lot of people that are living outside the United States, like, really, seriously, you guys have weapons in your vehicles? Yeah, we grew up. I remember growing up seeing people's trucks with gun racks in the back windows. So yeah, if any foreign country decides, well, we're going to invade the United States, you're going to be hurt because every American has guns, and we would form militias and we would go after you. I myself, if Russia decided to say invade the state of Maine, I'm sure that here in Michigan we would be forming a militia and we would all be going over to Maine and kicking some Russian butt. It's impossible to invade the United States. It can't happen because we all have guns. I remember back in the 90s when that movie came out, Independence Day, and there was that big giant ship over Los Angeles, and the newscaster came on in the movie and said, "We're asking Los Angelinians to stop shooting at the spacecraft for fear of causing an intergalactic war." That would actually happen. If there were spacecrafts over every city, you're going to see Americans start shooting at them. Yeah. Uh, so another Red Dawn. I'm not talking about the crappy new movie, but the old movie version. That would happen. Americans would grab guns, grab bullets, and all the gun stores would be like, "No, here, take them. Just take them. Don't have to purchase them. Just take them." If we were being invaded, every American would rise up. Uh, yeah, again, yeah, I am throwing my support behind Donald Trump, and I hope that you do too. When you're listening to this, because I want this country to go back to center. As a conservative, if there is a liberal candidate with some conservative ideas, and I believe that they could honor God, I would vote for a Democrat. But I stopped voting for Democrats a long time ago when I started seeing changes in this country and what they were pulling. And there's just a lot of blatant lies that come out of the Democratic Party, and it's terrible. And I don't even trust that party anymore. And so I am a registered Republican. Um, the Republicans get the evangelical vote, and so I do vote conservative, and I will be voting for Trump coming in November. Also, because I've been in the financial industry. One of my previous jobs was a financial advisor, and we didn't have a term for the big boom in the economy that Trump started, and so it was called a melt-up economy. We were self-efficient on energy and on oil. Stocks were booming. People's 401ks were going up, and it's just unbelievable how much money people were making under Trump. And I want that to happen again for you and your family. So that's where my vote's going. A meltdown in an economy is really bad. A melt up is extremely awesome. It was a new term during Trump's presidency. If that turns you off, that I'm voting for Trump in November, just look at the facts. Take what I say into account. Look at the facts. Behind Trump, the media is also, they're considered leftists, and they're going to support any Democratic candidate. And it's just sickening what they do. In the last debate between Trump and Harris, they checked Trump more than Harris. They didn't even fact check Harris at all. And just because it was Trump, they wanted to fact check. They wanted to make him look bad and to the American public. And it's not going to work. I don't know why the media does this. We see right through everything that they do. But sadly, 1% of Americans can't even identify where the United States is on a globe, world map. That's sad. That's 1% of Americans. So that's pretty much how, the devil does get involved in politics, and he is using the left to his advantage as much as possible to steer clear Ephraim, the United States, away from trying to lead this world. That's pretty much what's going on in a nutshell. And just a sentence right there, I just said it. So if Ephraim, the promised tribe, wants to lead this world, liberals, you need to start voting for conservative candidates. If you really want to put a screwdriver, put a wrench in the gears of what Satan is doing, vote for conservative candidates. I encourage you to vote the Bible this November. Take your Bible out, read your Bible, read what God is for, and see if any candidates are for or against certain things that God it wants, and vote the Bible. So until then, this is GP Haggart, and I hope that this has helped in some way to see that how the devil can influence politics. Don't keep it separate. It is actually healthy to get into a debate with a family member or a friend over politics, and but do it right. What I usually do with family members and, and close friends is when you evangelize, when you're using religion, take the person through the law. A lot of people ask me this, like, how do I evangelize to family members? Because it is different than evangelizing to people that you don't know. With family members, you have to judge yourself. What I did was I looked at them, and like my brother, like, hey, I knew that when I looked at God's divine law, the Ten Commandments, and saw that when He returns, that He's going to judge the world according to the Ten Commandments, according to Revelation. I saw that I hated somebody, and in God's eyes, that's murder. I broke the sixth commandment. And Jesus said, if you look at somebody with a lustful eye, you committed adultery with that person in your heart. And I was, I basically committed adultery in God's eyes. I blasphemed. I took the Lord's name in vain, even when I was younger. And I saw all of these things. And I was setting myself up for God's judgment. And I was in a lot of trouble. I knew I needed forgiveness, and I needed to seek, Jesus in order for God to forgive me. And I don't want to go to hell. And I don't want you to go to hell. And so the family members, when I started doing that, they started looking inwardly and in the mirror at themselves, and were like, oh, maybe I need to change. And they did. And then when you decide to move over to politics and they want to argue about politics, they're like, hey, look, you got to vote the Bible. You got to vote according to God's opinion. And this candidate that you're going to support does not fit what God wants done. And then that's how you change their idea, who they're going to vote for in November. Because you just took them through the Ten Commandments, you judged yourself in front of them, because your family members are going to judge you. If you come right out and just tell them, have you ever lied? Yeah, I've lied, and you have too, because they know you. And so, and then after you've gotten them saved, and it just, you can switch over to politics. and you can properly do it that way. Again, it's, now that they're saved, okay, well, you just accepted Jesus Christ. You got to put on the new man. So you got to comply to Christ's thinking and vote the Bible. And the candidate that you support supports abortion, supports the killing of an innocent child even after they're born. And that's murder in God's eyes. Oh, okay. And you're bringing them right back. You're judging the candidates according to the divine law as well. So that's how you can evangelize politically to somebody who is going to swing their vote over to a candidate that is potentially evil. Now, here, God's standards, according to leaders during biblical times, was very high. I remember in Bible college looking at the chart of who were good kings and who were evil kings, because there was no gray area with God. They were either good or they were evil. And the good, they followed the law, they did what they're told, they did what according to the word the Torah said. And evil ones just invited other gods in and didn't follow the law. Even if they seemed good, they were not following the law, and so they were considered evil in God's eyes. And a lot of the kings, I was astonished, were listed as evil. And there was only like maybe 2 or 3 that were considered good kings. So God has a high standard for leaders, and to be put to it. What drives me up a wall is Biden talks about his Catholic faith, and so does Pelosi. But did you know that these people were denied the Eucharist? They can't have communion because of their political views and their stance. I know Pelosi is definitely not allowed to have communion when she goes to church because of her views on abortion. So that's a good way. I applaud these bishops for doing that, for denying them certain things, for to try and get straighten them out. Kathleen Waters and even Pelosi herself, I remember when the riots were going on in Minneapolis. I posted it up on my Facebook page on there quite a bit, but there's a documentary. I'll have to post it up there again. But it's free on YouTube. It was made by, I can't remember the streaming service that made it, but it's about the truth of those riots. And Tim Walz was even the governor during those riots. And that they came in and they were bashing these police officers for Pelosi and Waters and all those on the left for the death of George Floyd. Well, you look in this documentary, they look into the background, history, and even show the actual arrest footage of George Floyd. He had a criminal history. He went and he tried to pay for some items with fake money, counterfeit money. So the store owner called the police. The police came and investigated George Floyd, and George Floyd was, and you can watch the footage, was resisting arrest. And there is an approved method of putting arrested people into holds, and that is putting their knee on, the police officer puts their knee on their back when they're on the ground. Now, that was in the Minneapolis Police Department's book, instructional book. That book was approved by the police chief, which he flatly denied on the stand. He lied under oath. and approved by Tim Walz, that method. And the coroner and the autopsy reveals that George Floyd died of a heart attack. He did not die because he could not breathe or anything. He was claiming that he had COVID. He was getting over COVID and he couldn't breathe. Even if you are talking and you are telling the police officers, I can't breathe, and you're repeatedly saying that, you're taking breaths to speak, okay? He could breathe. So I encourage you to go watch that documentary. It's called The Fall of Minneapolis. The Minneapolis the police department had over 600 police officers. The city was under control until that event happened, when the left decided to blow it out of proportion, which they did. And they influenced and deceived the hearts and minds of the black people of that community, of those communities, into wanting to attack the police department and have a difference of opinion and not even see the truth at all. And Pelosi and Maxine Waters was a part of that. They were acting in deception. And that's what the Jezebel spirit does. See, Jezebel wants to be in positions of power, and she wants to control and manipulate the masses. And she'll do that through your hosts. So if I sat down with Pelosi and Maxine Waters, I would definitely, I do believe, 99% that a Jezebel spirit would pop up out of them. Now that police department, the Minneapolis Police Department, has just over 200 police officers. That's not enough to police the city. It's just they could not do their jobs after those riots occurred. And instead of backing the police, Tim Walz decided to back George Floyd, a known criminal. That doesn't sound right at all, does it? So you see how things get twisted a lot by Democrats. And I can't find myself in good conscience with the mind of Christ to vote for Democrats. So I hope that this coming November, you can help save America, Ephraim, if you're patriotic liberals, to look into the Bible, what it says, and apply that to your candidate and decide whether you should vote for them or not. Now, this is G.P. Haggart signing off. Thank you for listening. Go ahead and get my books. It helps our ministry, helps my family, puts food on the table. Serial killers and their demons. You want to know more about serial killers and how they're influenced by demons? You can find that on Amazon, any online bookstore. Same thing with how to deal with Jezebel spirits and dealing with the most dangerous demons, and Mechanics of Angelology. Teaches you everything that you need to know about angels. Also, some big news. Just wanted to let you know that we are in production for a Prime Video television series following Jared Grimm and I. He's a demonologist on our caseload, and the documentary follows us around, and you get to see demons being cast out, and you might even learn a thing or two about how to do deliverance. Also, so that should air on Prime next year, 2025. So look for that. Probably they're starting in August or September. We're not sure yet. We're still in production. We've got probably about 3 or 4 episodes filmed, We're still filming more. We don't know how many episodes per season we're going to do. Maybe 6 or 10. We're not sure. But we're having fun with it. Also, with this show, we do need your help because it costs a lot of money to produce a show. And we're asking you, the listener, if you want to be a part of the show, we want to put your name in the credits as a producer. And how you can do that, go into the description. We have a show wish list on Amazon. If you buy any of those items on that list, they get shipped to us. You put your name on the card that comes at the end. You put your name in there. You will be listed as a producer for the show because producers put in a lot of money, and we're putting in a lot of money to make this happen. If this is a unique show that's occurring, and this is going to be ongoing. This list is going to be up there. So if we decide to have a season 2, and we already have a lot of the items that you guys bought for us to make the show happen, we'll put more stuff up there that we need in order for it to happen. We need cameras, we need batteries, we need SD cards, we need external hard drives for footage, to store footage on. We need computers, laptops. We need, and the list goes on of what we need. And so if you want to be a producer on the show, go to that wish list and check it out, see what you can afford. It could be one item, or you can buy 5 items, 10 items, what have you. We'll put you in there as a producer on the show in the credits, and you'll have bragging rights. And you can tell your friend Joe, hey, I'm a producer on Something Wicked This Way Comes. That's on Prime Video. And oh yeah, no, you're not. Hey, the show airs. They look at the credits. Boom, they're right there. Wow, I guess you are. Wow, that's pretty cool. So this is a chance for you to, you can be a producer of the show and help us out. So we are only filming in Michigan right now for the show because of travel restrictions, gas prices right now, and time off from those who are involved, having their jobs, and they got to take vacation time in order to film. We are hoping, if there's going to be a second season, to be able to travel to Indiana to work with other groups. I'd like to get my friend Tracy Bacon involved on a few cases. Go to Ohio, work with some groups, work with some people in Kentucky, expand it out, even Wisconsin, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and so forth, and even going into Canada, into Ontario next door. So this is your chance to, right now in this first season, put in your support. Go into the description of this podcast and look for the Amazon wish list. Click on that link, or copy and paste the link into your browser, and look at the items on them and see what you're able to afford, and buy those items. Once you purchase them, they get shipped to us, and we see your name on there. There would be a little card that would be on there, say a gift for you, wishing you luck on your next project. That might be something that somebody had recently bought for us, but you just put your name in there. It lets us know. We keep these cards that come with your item, and you're a producer. We put your name in as producer. You can even do it as a gift for somebody. Purchase an item for for us and put your son or daughter's name in. Say, hey, you're a producer on the show. You can even put your business name on. Um, uh, it's just, it could be a good gift for somebody, for Christmas. You can just send them a card and just letting them know, hey, I made you a producer on the show Something Wicked This Way Comes. So it's just something fun, something, we're thinking about you. We're looking to the public to help keep this show funded and keep it going. If you're even looking to just send some money to us to help with the show, you can go to gphaggart.com. There should be a link to donate at the top. Click on that and send any amount that you want. Unfortunately, we don't have a 501c3 status. It's not tax deductible. But it just, again, in PayPal, put a note in there. This is for the show and what you want your funds to go to, and we'll put you in as a producer of the show. We do have executive producers. We do have associate producers. The associate producers are there to help find cases for us, and they're out there looking for cases, so that's what their job is to do. We're the executive producers, Jared and I. We're the ones who are making the show happen, and you producers are helping to make the show happen as well, from your standpoint, from the equipment that we need. And so you rightfully deserve to be known as a producer of the show. So it's fun, and everybody gets a chance to be able to see it, and you're a part of the show, and that's great. So exposing Jezebel, more likely it's looking like it's going to come out in 2025. I'm just not sure yet. It is still in post-production, and we have other documentary ideas in mind right now. We were going to do investigate the Michigan Dog Man, but we put that in the back burner for now because we are concentrating on the show, and that's mainly what we are looking to do. We feel that's more effective for Christ, for ministry, to be able to show people what we do, train others on how to do it. If you're looking to do deliverance, go ahead and on Udemy and type in Exorcism Masterclass. There should be a link to that as well in the description of this podcast. And you'll be able to, you start off with angelology, go into basic demonology, then intermediate demonology. And we just recently put up a 4th course up there, the start of the core classes, which is basic deliverance. And it teaches you the history, theology, and at the end teaches you the early church method. And then intermediate and advanced deliverance courses that we're working on are going to be based off of the core method of how to do deliverance. The intermediate demonology is going to go more extensive, probably more courses, but it's going to be more about spiritual warfare. And advanced deliverance is going to get more into actually conducting an exorcism. And then we're going to have advanced demonology, which will be more than likely be like a dictionary of demons that included into it, with a lot of other material. It's going to really teach you the demons that you're going to face the most. And those demons are Lucifer, Leviathan, Jezebel, and their variations. Beelzebub, Belial, the list goes on. These are more the the core demons that you're going to face. Now, you're going to face demons with really strange names, and we're going to teach you how to handle that as well in those courses. So look for those in the near future. We're even going to do a cultology course and an occultology course. And we're just going to keep Exorcism Masterclass going on. So I understand that there's going to be a lot of criticism. There already is on Exorcism Masterclass, but I totally expected that. And I expect people to criticize them, but usually the critics don't understand. They don't understand the course at all. And this is the early church method we are teaching you. It's not Catholic exorcism. We respect Catholic exorcism. And in the intermediate deliverance course, we are going to talk about Catholic exorcism. And we actually applaud the Catholic Church for bringing it back, bringing exorcism back. Although it's not the original way that the early church did exorcism, but it is, we are going to teach the early church method of exorcism in it. But it's more of what we're teaching about the Catholic method is more of a respect for the Catholic Church, more of like, hey, they did a great thing on bringing this back, recognizing that there is a need for spiritual warfare. They did it. They at least did something. It's not the correct way on how to do exorcism, but at least they did something. And we applaud the Catholic Church for doing that. So this is G.P. Haggart, theologian and exorcist, signing off. Go check those things out. Those things do help us to what I was just discussing with you. That does help us with the show, documentaries, and puts food on my table from my family. I'm doing this full time. I'm teaching full time. I'm doing ministry full time right now, and this helps my family. So if you want to keep me going and keep me battling demons, please consider donating in some way, and check out those items on the wish list also, and take the courses. So God bless you. Have a great day, and I love you.
On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. And I love that old cross where the dearest and best for a world of lost sinners was slain.
Unbeknownst to the public, an ancient malevolence prowls the earth, insidiously infiltrating the lives of unsuspecting victims. This formidable evil bears responsibility for shaping many of the world's current events.
She's a heavy hitter. She's a nasty spirit.
When it comes to the Jezebel spirit, this thing's it's an ancient spirit. It's been around for a very long time, and it is a snake.
Exposing Jezebel. Coming to Amazon Prime Video.